Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I see all the comments. RV, I never missed the show, but had to yesterday. OMG, congratulations. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. D-Mac, Rachel Vigil, Cecil Lamy also going to join us. D-Mac, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. It's the longest day of the year. It's the first day of summer.
You're right.
Summer solstice, and it's just a spectacular day. So I was like, well, coffee break, get on my bike, do a good bike run in there. And then I hear we're supposed to be at home. But, you know. It
all works out. Honestly, it works out. You're in studio. I am at home today. Cecil Lamy, like I said, will join us. He'll be at home. It all works out at the end.
It is. I'm low key complaining because I need to get out on my bicycle and pedal around like a lunatic. And I even got in early enough, yes, Rachel, to shower. So
what? Wait, you showered after your ride?
We have a workout place downstairs in the basement of our building.
I did know that. I didn't realize there were showers down there.
So you've never been into the locker room area ever?
I have not. No.
No, there's a shower. They didn't have warm water in there for a good 3 years, but they have. So it's always one of those you kind of throw your head in there sort of thing and freeze, but the warm water is working. So, I mean, just life is perfect.
Chef's kiss.
How was your day, your engagement day? How did it go? What was new?
Good. We felt so much love. Thank you to everybody. I still see your comments coming through. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. It's one of those things. I personally don't love the attention being on me. So when it's like everybody is like, oh my God, Rachel, let me see and whatever, I get a little anxious, but I'm just embracing the moment. I truthfully, I feel the love. I saw so many DMs yesterday, so many people congratulating us. So it really does mean the absolute world to us. So if I didn't get back to you yet, I promise I'm still going through all the comments, but it means the world to all of us.
Well, I think it's amazing. And I'm glad you surprised me. And I know. I was talking to my wife about it, and just hey, good for your fiance, Anthony. That's all I can say.
So we've been laughing because there was one comment that made us giggle, and it was like, have you guys been dating for a while, or was this just like a surprise? And I think the wording was just off of it, but we were like, nope, we just met on the top of the mountain, and we were like, hey, we're married.
How long were you guys dating?
We dated a little over 5 years. It was 5 years in April. So, but we were kind of on this COVID took away. Yeah. I don't know, I feel like when you first start dating in those first couple of years, you want to travel, and we were just stuck in our house. So it was kind of all these things we still wanted to do before we got to this stage. And we had finally been able to do it in the past couple of years. So, but yeah, very exciting. I can't stop looking at it.
That's awesome. Any surprises? Did you hear from anybody you didn't expect to hear from? Was there anything?
Yeah. Lots and lots of people. Lots of former boyfriend's family members.
Oh, that's interesting.
Reached out to me. So, those were kind of weird, but at the end of the day, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate your well wishes. And
did you hear from any ex-boyfriends?
No, one who I'm semi friends with, we have a very mutual friend. He congratulated me, and so did his family, but none of the serious boyfriend.
Is there any boyfriend out there? Is there one? I guess you don't have to name him, but is there one who's most likely to crash the wedding, proclaiming his undying love? Don't do it, Rachel. I'm the right one. Is there anybody out there like that?
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I think I made it pretty clear that there was a pretty strict cutoff, but I guess you never know nowadays.
That's always the Hollywood moment. Don't do it. He's the wrong choice. I'm the right one.
I don't even know what I would do. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, I appreciated the well wishes. But
what about on the other side? How about Anthony? Did he? Who did he hear from?
I don't think so. He's not a big. So social media is such a big part of my job. He's not a really big social media guy. Mm-hmm. Even our executive producer Richie, if you don't know who he is, you'll hear him on the drive all the time with D-Mac. But he commented and like texted me and he was like, did he make an Instagram just so he could be tagged in this? And I'm like, no, he's always had one. He just doesn't post anything. Like he's a very private person, but it made me laugh. But I heard that you were talking about us on the drive. So I need to know what you said.
I just said congratulations and how thrilled and happy we were for you and how great it was. And our KJ got married. KJ, who's a producer on our show, got married. Sorry, thing here.
Wait, when did he get married?
He got married on last Wednesday. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, he like congratulated me this weekend. Now I have to text him. I had no idea.
Yeah, it was very low key, but he got married. He got married last Wednesday. That's why he's been off the past. He's off for a couple weeks, but that's why he's been off.
Oh my gosh, I'm like shook right now. I will be texting KJ immediately after the show is done because I had no idea. Yeah, he congratulated.
Oh, wait a second. He congratulated you, and you didn't know anything about him getting married?
I had I knew he was getting married, but I didn't realize that it was so soon.
Married.
We're gonna be sending a text message for sure. But DMAC, Bruce Brown declines the player option. We all knew this was coming because, of course, it means a little bit more of a payday. But Nuggets fans are freaking out, being like, Bruce Brown, don't leave. And we're here to say it's not a done deal yet that Bruce Brown won't return to the Nuggets.
It's tricky. Bobby Portis did this a couple years ago, and maybe Bruce Brown will do it too. So he could sign what they would consider, well, first of all, he was always going to decline this because it was the only way for him to guarantee at least a raise.
Yeah.
And excuse me. So if he signs a contract for what they would call a 1+1, okay, 1-on-1, that means he would sign a deal and get a 20% increase. So he would get, I think, $7.8 million next year for 1 year.
Yep.
And then it gives the Nuggets early bird rights to negotiate a different deal with him for a bigger contract next time around. Mm-hmm. So it by far is the best indication that we love you, we want to keep you, and once we can afford it, which would be after the 2023-24 season, then here we go. Now, Bruce Brown's I roll my eyes with only, but in his career, he's only made $15 million. If he signs just a 4-year, $60 million deal, which he possibly could on the open market, sorry about that, he could possibly make 4 years, like I said, 4 years, $60 million. And that $60 million would be guaranteed. It's a mammoth decision. And I could never blame Bruce Brown for taking more guaranteed money. I mean, I would never do that.
Yeah.
But it is awful tempting because if he signs this deal, first of all, he made 6.5 last year and he'll make 7.8. So he would have made $15 million in 2 years. You know, that's pretty good. And he can bet on himself if he really does want to stay here and be a key part of a potential dynasty. If not, Rachel, I mean, and I love Bruce and I want him to stay. You know, there are other fish in the sea. There are. But now we get into the conversation like Kadri, losing Nazem Kadri. Like, I get it. There's other players. There's other things you can do. Yeah. But when you find somebody that just fits like a glove, you know, and for both sides, by the way, both sides, like Kadri went off to Calgary, Rachel, they didn't make the playoffs and their coach got fired. Yep. So and Kadri's numbers were very similar at the end of the day to JT Compher's numbers. So it wasn't like Kadri went and saved the day for Calgary. They missed the playoffs. And like I said, the coach got banged. So it's a tricky decision.
No, it is. And I think everyone said it. Like, you never fault anybody for taking the money because that money can help for so many years for like entire families. But is it worth it? Is it worth to take the money and not get to experience another championship? Or are you just happy because you got one and a lot of players don't even get that opportunity?
It's a great question. What
would
you
love
do,
to go in the
what in your life, what would you do?
Well, that's hard because I've never even come close to a championship like that kind of thing. So it's easy for me to be like, well, the money's more realistic, but at the same time, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to win a championship. All right,
let me ask you this. Have you ever in your life made a decision where it was more about the quality of your life than money, or vice versa, or maybe both. I don't know. I've done both.
Honestly, working in sports, like when you first start off, you do it because you're passionate about working in sports. You don't do it because you're going to get a big payday by any means. So yeah, I guess I chose the happiness of working in sports and being able to wake up and love my job every single day instead of, doing like something like finance where you're making six figures right away. So I guess, yeah, I've kind of gone more for the passion than the money when you put it that way.
I turned down, I did some crazy things when I think about it. First of all, I stayed in Syracuse a year after I graduated because I was just in love with my fiance. She wasn't even my fiance, my girlfriend at the time. I just couldn't imagine moving on without her. And then that year, while I decided to stay like an extra year in Syracuse because she was a year behind me in school, I got offered a job. This is pretty funny. I was making so little money, Rachel. So I was making like $16,000 a year full time. And after I graduated, that is not a lie. And then I was offered like $18,500 by like a competing radio station to do kind of the same thing. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, and it really wasn't. But I didn't want to leave. So I went back to my boss and I go, well, listen, they're offering me this. And they're like, well, we can't pay you this, but we'll offer you a little bit more. And I just took the little bit more because I really didn't want. And let me tell you, the other radio station was a better company. It was a fancier facility. It was a nice guy that I had been working with. I just didn't like the format, and I kind of just liked where I was at. And, I ended up, this is a weird one because I ended up getting fired from the station that I decided to stay at for less money because the entire station changed. Like it wasn't a very stable organization. So it's kind of like what I did was for the right reasons, but I didn't dig deep enough into like the quality of the actual company. Yeah. And really, I made a mistake, in all honesty. I really should have taken the other job at a more money, better company, but I didn't like the job as much. Yeah. So it's kind of like, and then another job I took in DC, I just simply took it because it was the most money I'd ever been offered in radio, and it was pretty good money at the time. By far the most money I'd ever made, but it was a lousy situation. Yeah. So and it's not like at that time I didn't have a lot of other better offers. But I took it and I hated it almost immediately. So listen, we're talking millions of dollars. Yeah. So the likelihood of Bruce Brown like hating Charlotte, is pretty minimal. And I'm not saying he would go to Charlotte, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. You go to a less than team that's building up. I think it's complicated. I actually, I'm telling this whole story to say I don't think there's actually necessarily a right answer. So this is a tricky path. I would think at the end of the day, the bottom line is in life, Rachel, I'm getting a little philosophical. In life, nothing tops happiness. And I would like to think if you're a good person and you work hard, money will always come your way. So are you happy or are you not happy? And if you've got any sort of, any coin flip, I would always steer towards the happiness. But maybe money makes you happy. I mean, money makes a lot of people happy. But winning, I would think winning is pretty special too. This is a super complicated one, Rachel. I have no idea what Bruce is going to do, but I'll tell you this. Whatever decision he makes, I'm going to support because I could understand the decision either way. Oh,
and me too. I still think he's going to come back. I think that he also can see, hey, if I win another championship with the squad, which it's a real possibility because the core is still there, that my payday can be even bigger than possibly what I'm saying. And I know he's going to be another year older and we can get into the age factor, but it's not, if they win another one, that payday can still go up for sure.
No, there's no doubt about that. Here's what's tricky here. These guys freaking love each other. They seriously do.
You have to give credit to Michael Malone because he really did build this like family like culture in the locker room, which you hear all about it in like pro sports, but I feel like when you actually can, like, there's sometimes you can see it, and they really do love each other in that locker room compared to other locker rooms you and I have both seen where they say it's all about family and yada yada, but we both know that it's not that close knit.
Well, it wasn't that close last year with the Nuggets. Yeah. It was odd with Facu Campazzo. It was odd with DeMarcus Cousins, and it was odd with Bones Highland. It just was. Okay. I mean, it was odd. They did not, at the end of the season last year, Rachel, they were burned out. They were exhausted. Michael Malone said, at least we won one. Like, we beat the Golden State Warriors one game. And you could tell that's all that they wanted. It was lost without Jamal and without MPJ. And frankly, they were lost without guys they didn't even know were on the team. They were kind of lost because it just wasn't the right chemistry. I mean, I hate to be, a jerk on this, but 3 guys in particular, Campazzo, Bones Highland, and DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah. No joke. It was just not a good setup, and everybody just wanted to get the hell out of there. Even though and that's a weird, now you want to talk about something weird. You're already pretty successful. So when do you make change to do better when you're already successful? When is being good not good enough?
I mean, that's a great question. I wish I had the answer. It's a good question. On that same note, I want to ask you this question. Do you give more credit to Calvin Booth or Tim Connolly for, let's take out the big two. Let's take out Jokic and Jamal. But who do you give more credit to building this championship squad?
I give credit to both. For example, with the Broncos, they couldn't have got to where they were without John Fox.
Yeah.
But they needed something else to get to that last highest rung of the ladder, and that was Gary Kubiak. But they wouldn't have got to that spot for Kubes to come in, period, if Fox hadn't laid down a pretty significant foundation.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what happened with the Nuggets. I think you could not have done this without Tim Connolly. No way. No how. And he deserves so much credit for the foundation and the building blocks. But also you need that. I don't know if he makes the moves that Calvin Booth ended up making. I really am not sure about that.
Yep.
So it's kind of this awesome sort of combination of things. So I wouldn't give one guy more credit than the other because, like, well, what was more important, getting Bruce Brown and KCP or drafting Nikola Jokic in the second round and developing him, and also drafting Jamal Murray, and also signing Michael Porter Jr. to the contract and taking a chance on him. Those are all things Tim Connolly was part of.
Yeah.
And then you got some other weird things like, there was some addition by subtraction with Will Barton. He was a punching bag with the fans, but Michael Malone loved him.
Yep.
I'm just not so quick to lump him in with those other 3, but you just need to move on from the guy. What can I tell you? I don't think they had to move on from Monte Morris. I think if they could have kept Monte Morris, they would have. That was just part of that sucked. That was just part of the deal in order to, get better and do what you had to do. But they would have been fine with Monte Morris. Monte, great dude. Everybody loved him. Would have been tremendous coming off the bench as a backup to Jamal. Yep. Not quite Bruce Brown, but pretty darn close. They would have been okay. They would have won the championship if Bruce Brown wasn't here and Monte Morris was. Yep. But, it is what it is. You need one or the other. And if you don't have Monte, it's great that you get Bruce Brown. I'll tell you this. I think it does mean you could probably find somebody else too. If you had Monte, he would have done it. Bruce Brown, he did it. Likely there's another guy out there. It's just like, who? And that's what's tricky.
Who was the better pickup, KCP or Bruce Brown?
I want to say, oh man, I am hedging because I see KCP and Bruce Brown as like starters. Like, if you look at they're like right there. I mean, on any given night, one guy, KCP always started, but on any given night, they might have closed with one guy over the other. They may have closed with both guys. You look at their minutes at the end of some games, and they were pretty similar. I'm going to guess KCP at the end of the day has more minutes. Oh my God, KCP slightly because they needed somebody who was going to be selfless defensively and had won a championship to sort of present that championship thing. And he's just a little bit older by Bruce. He's like 5 years older than Bruce. Yeah. So he has a little bit of leadership. So KCP is the answer. And they're paying KCP, Rachel, significantly more than Bruce Brown. So the answer is KCP, but it's close. It's real close.
No, I'm with you. And I think we could all agree that, I mean, they were both fantastic, but
they were both
I'm
fantastic.
Also with KCP just because of the leadership quality that he had in there, the been there, done that. Like when you were talking to KCP, he was always like, I'm telling the guys, like, we're this close, but you got to keep your head right, because if you get distracted, this whole thing can fall apart. And I just remember a lot of those moments with KCP where you were like, he knows the grind that this is going to take. But Bruce Brown also brought like a little bit of swagger to the team too, which was a lot of fun. So
yeah, listen, I think if you want to make the Nazem Kadri comparison, I think that's fair. The significant difference between Kadri, though, and Bruce Brown is age. Kadri's in his early 30s, Brown's in his young 20s.
Yep.
The deal that Kadri got from the Flames was, just kind of ridiculous for a guy his age. It was preposterous at the time. if Rachel, had they known, this is going to sting a little bit, but had they known that Landeskog was going to be out for the entire year, which he was, and had Landeskog gone on long-term IR, which of course, knowing what we know now, they absolutely would have done.
Yeah.
There would have been a much better chance of keeping Kadri. The problem with the Kadri deal is it was like a 7-year guaranteed deal. It's just, it was like this crazy lengthy deal, but they may have had a shot to keep him. The real decision last year, Rach, was Nichushkin over Kadri. And I supported it 100% because who would have predicted the trouble that Nichushkin would find himself in? Talk about hindsight being 2020.
Yeah, no kidding. But that is the biggest difference between Kadri and Bruce Brown is the age, like you said.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's what happens too when you win a championship. You have to make these really tough decisions, and you have to be able to figure out ways to pay him. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bruce Brown decides to do. They can figure out a deal that makes him happy and he stays, or if he goes. I did see a question, and it says, any idea where he will go if he leaves?
Oh, no. There's so many teams. I think there's a ton of teams that would just take him on like a 2-year sort of deal. Tons of teams. But there's probably 4 or 5 teams that would give him, that 4-year, $60 million, if not more, sort of contract. I cannot get over Duncan Robinson for the Heat, who comes off the bench as like a 3-point specialist, signed a 5-year, $90 million deal a couple years ago. That guy, Duncan Robinson, is under a 5-year, $90 million deal. So, if Duncan Robinson can get a deal like that, what is Bruce Brown going to get to be a starter? And likely it's going to be, $12 to $15 million a year for guaranteed 4 years. Do I know the teams? No, but there's a lot of teams that could use them. And likely they're not championship teams. Likely they're teams that are trying to build themselves back up. I don't think Bruce Brown would be, joining a super group. I think he would have to be like, hey, like Kadri, hey, man, we need you to be one of the leaders here, one of the stars here. I said Charlotte because I don't know. It seems like that would be one of those type of teams because I don't know what's going on with LaMelo Ball. He's got an injury. He's coming back. But like if you teamed up LaMelo Ball with Bruce Brown, that is, dude, that's an awesome combination.
True. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I see another question. Who do you think the Nuggets will draft? Jake Shapiro will be on the show tomorrow, and he has been doing some deep diving into what he thinks the Nuggets will do. That includes moving up into the first round of the NBA draft. That's coming up very, very quickly. It's hard to believe. When you win a championship, your summer pretty much is gone. You're right back into the office the next day, it seems like. But Jake will definitely give you a big, deep dive into that tomorrow. Again, I see another who do you see us taking the draft, and Jake is the person. He's also done a fabulous job.
Let me just say this about the draft. First of all, they're trying to move up into the first round, okay? Yeah. And it's not like who specifically, it's kind of what type of player. Mm-hmm. And I think what is consistent is they're looking for length and defenders. So if you're going to, they're not looking for scoring. They still don't have a solid, significant backup for Jokic. That is kind of a wild missing piece. So my guess is if they move up, they're looking for somebody who is, again, like Peyton Watson, a lengthy perimeter defender.
Yep.
And I think Peyton Watson's going to fit that mold great. And after that, I would guess it's going to be a significant big guy that they think can develop for somebody behind Jokic. Because that's just been Rachel, that's just been a significant missing piece of the puzzle. I think DeAndre Jordan was fabulous for what he brought to the table. I really do like Zeke Naji, but he just kind of fell away near the end of the season. And after that, I mean, Jeff Green, Jeff Green's a little bit, long in the tooth, although I would certainly welcome Jeff back on a 1-year deal. And I'd love to have Jeff Green back for another year. But I would say a perimeter defender, length, and I would say, and maybe look to Europe a little bit to find that type of guy that would fit in culturally with what the organization has going, and somebody that, at least profiles like Jokic. I mean, we're never going to find another Jokic, but you'd probably find somebody in the second round who at least profiles like him, and you sort of see what you can get.
I know, it's going to be so interesting.
But that being said, Rach, there's probably only 3 new guys, maybe max 3 new guys that join this team, period. Don't forget, you do have Peyton Watson coming up. You're going to get Colin Gillespie. You still have Jack White. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with him. They're probably going to move on from Thomas Bryant and from Reggie Jackson. That's my guess. Thomas Bryant unless he has some sort of remarkable turnaround, I'm going to guess they're going to move on from those guys. So you're really replacing, Rachel, Reggie Jackson, backup guard sort of guy, Bruce Brown, 6-man sort of guy. Is that Christian Brown? Is it somebody else? And then, big man Thomas Bryant. It's 3 players. You're really only looking to add 3 players to this team. Crazy, right?
And one of the best things about the NBA draft, especially in the first round, is you can get a player like Christian Brown who can be ready to go and help your team right off the bat. So
you can get Christian Brown if you're in the first round. You're not getting Christian Brown if you're not in the first round.
But that's my point. That's why they're looking to move up. They understand the championship window is right now, and they have to roll with it. You give up stuff in the next 5 years or whatever. You give it all up so that you can win now and hopefully bring it back to back. It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to see what the Nuggets are doing. I trust the front office, so it is exciting. But the ESPY Awards came out, and of course, Jokic, Jamal, and the Nuggets are all on there. Michaela Schifrin as well. I'm going to give you just a few of these, and you tell me if you think that the Nuggets can walk away with it. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Best male athlete. Hold on, let me go back to it. Is Nikola Jokic, Aaron Judge, Patrick Mahomes, or Lionel Messi?
Yeah, Jokic has no chance at this because there's no way he's flying to Los Angeles for Sombor. And you don't win one of these awards unless you're in the audience. That period, the end. You just don't do it. So that's going to go
completely.
That's going to go to Patrick Mahomes because ESPN has their biggest contract with the NFL. So that one's going to go to Mahomes.
Okay, sounds good. Best championship performance, Nikola Jokic, Lionel Messi, and then Rose Zhang, who won the 2023 Mizuho American Open. I might be messing that name up, though, and I do apologize.
What?
Yeah.
What is that? What sport is that?
Hockey. Or not hockey, excuse me. Golf, not hockey.
What's the name of the championship?
Mizuho America's Open?
What?
Yeah.
Right, well, not that guy. Not that guy. And
it's a woman. It's a woman.
Oh, I thought you said male athlete. So this is overall
is championship performance.
Championship performance. Sorry, my bad. Oh, okay. Well, I assume that's one of the majors in women's golf. My bad. So I have no idea. Maybe she did awesome. My guess is that it's going to be Messi. Yep. Because he's probably going to be there because ESPN probably has a contract with MLS and they're going to try to make a big splash for Messi coming to Miami MLS. So
are you telling me that anybody in the NBA or anything can't compete if there's an
the only people that win these awards are people that are going to show up to help the interest of ESPN. So that's it. I mean, what do you think? Nickelodeon does the Teen Choice Awards? You think it's a surprise that Bieber's in the audience? I mean,
fair. Okay.
It's not like they scan the audio like, oh my God. So Jokic is not going to win any of that crap. Okay. And these guys don't even, listen, it's not the Oscars, okay? Where people like show up in the audience to get humiliated when they lose. Oh, somebody else won.
True.
Great.
Best comeback athlete. So John Jones won the UFC heavyweight championship at UFC 45 or 285 in his first fight since 2020. Then Jamal Murray comes into play, obviously, after suffering from his torn ACL. Alyssa Thomas, the Connecticut Sun forward, won the 2022 WNBA Comeback Player of the Year after suffering a torn Achilles. And then Justin Verlander won the 2022 Al Cy Young and Al Comeback Player of the Year.
Well, Verlander's like a million years old, so forget him. There's no way he's going to win. What was the first athlete you said?
John Jones, who's a UFC heavyweight.
Yeah. He's not going to win that. He's the problems he came back from. And they're not going to do that. And the contract with UFC and ESPN is minuscule. I mean, it does exist. This is going to go to NBA or WNBA. Yep. And I'm not familiar with how she came back from her Achilles. So I'm not sure.
Do you actually think Jamal could do it?
Oh, this one suits Jamal great and is well-deserved. And ESPN has a huge contract with the NBA. And I'm going to guess Jamal will love going to the ESPYs. So this could be a really super cool moment for Jamal. If he doesn't win it, I think the WNBA star will win it. But this is that's a solid one right there for the Nuggets and Jamal. That one exists in the realm of possibility.
Okay. The other one that's on here is best team. It's the Chiefs, the Nuggets, the Knights, the Aces, the Georgia Bulldogs, LSU Tigers, and Oklahoma Sooners. Obviously, all for different things. Can an NBA team overtake an NFL team in that category?
Not the Nuggets. No, not the Nuggets. What are we, nuts? No, that's going to go to the Chiefs all the way.
Okay. Sounds
and let me tell you about the Chiefs, too. This is an interesting one because they were technically rebuilding. They lost a bunch of players. They lost Tyreek Hill. They were trying to do... They weren't supposed to win this year. Yeah. So, and also if Mahomes wins the best that's like, best director wins best film, that sort of thing. Yeah. So, that's going to be the Chiefs. Because the ESPN's moving on. The NBA's done. We're moving towards, and they're not thrilled that the Nuggets ended up being the best team. That doesn't suit their purposes. Yeah. So, I mean, look how many ESPN personalities were made to look like fools during the Nuggets run. So it's going to go Chiefs.
True. Okay. You see what Michael Malone did?
The tattoo?
The tattoo. Michael Malone gets tatted. Do you know who's on his arm, D-Mac?
His name is Maxie. That's the logo from back in the day. Good old Maxie the Miner.
Maxie the Miner, and if you take another deep look, he is holding the Larry O'Brien trophy at it.
Hey, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about that picture. So listen, far be it from me to call people short, okay? But Michael Malone, I swear to God, he's not that much taller than me. I mean, he might have me by 2 or 3 inches, okay? Uh-huh. Whoever that dude is in the picture has got to be like 5'2". I mean, that is a really short guy. All right. That picture makes Michael Malone looks like he's 6'6". Michael Malone is not that tall. Or Michael Malone's standing on a stool or something. I mean, that is like something from like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory right there. So
my only thing about the tattoo is I am like, Michael Malone, you got it in the most like dad place obvious. I feel like all the dads get their tattoos just like chilling right here. I was like, we couldn't have done like a calf or something, but
no. With a tattoo,
right there.
you want it in a spot that says, hey, I'm not embarrassed by it, but you don't see it that often. I got a tattoo and I don't see it at all. I forget that it's even on my body because it's on my back. Like my upper right, exactly.
What do you have a tattoo of?
I made the dumbest bet with myself. Like Drew Lock was going to be okay or some idiotic thing. And I've got like a 4-leaf clover with like Drew Lock, like a lock and a number on it. It's this, the guy who did it for me was awesome. He was incredible, great tattoo artist, and he did as good of a job with that stupid tattoo as you can imagine. Yeah, I got a dumb, lost a bet tattoo. Yeah, but I mean, I'm so,
So you are going to end up getting the Walton Penner ownership group a tattooed across your forehead then. If you lose your bet in 10 years, huh?
Yeah, that's what everybody's going to want to see. Some elderly man WPOG on his forehead. That's that. People are dying to see that.
I am dying. Okay, well, we will bring in one.
I got 2 tattoos.
Where's your other one?
My other one I got when the Boston Red Sox won in 2004, and I got the socks, the red socks, the socks. I got that on my left ankle, but I got it all in red, and it's, you can faintly see it, but it's more or less just kind of just disappeared over the years. But you can, I mean, if you really put your eyeballs to it, and I don't know what creeper would want to put his eyeballs on my ankle, but I mean, it's there. So I got 2 of them, Rach.
Oh,
how many tattoos do you have?
0.
Dude, I can see a little Hawaiian action. I can see a little
I honestly want to get, there's like these tiny petite little ones of your like dog's ears. I mean, you are like, we're talking like this big, and it's just like an outline of your dog's ears. I think my dog's ears are so cute that I thought about doing that on my ankle, but I don't know. Maybe one day.
Rachel, I'd say go for it. Do something. Come back with like some braids and a tattoo, and that would be time well spent in Hawaii.
Well, Matt, our producer, he just messaged. He has 3 of them, and we will ask Cecil Lammy if he has any as we bring in our host of Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Honda. Good morning, Cecil. How many tattoos do you got?
Oh, Cecil's got some.
Does Cecil have the dad tattoo?
No. Hell no.
Okay.
No.
You don't have wait. You don't have any ink, Cease?
I don't have any ink whatsoever, and I'm not against ink at all. I'm against bad ink. So at least Michael Malone's tattoo, like Mike Evans' Tim Tebow tattoo that he did when he lost the bet, whatever. That's the worst tattoo ever. Okay, and I know it was a big deal. It got Mike Evans a bunch of attention, but all it is a 15 in Broncos font with some wings and like a halo. It doesn't even say anything about Tebow, and it's like tiny. And it's faded and it's awful. Like if he's going to get a Tim Tebow tattoo, which he did, Mike Evans should have got like Timmy's name,
no
maybe
way,
his face, like something big. A 15 with Angels wings, it's lame.
Dude, Steve's give me a break.
It's
he was
lame.
great to get that. Lame.
He
lost the bet and got inked.
Yeah,
I mean,
awesome. It's lame. Like if it would have been a different tattoo, it would have been okay.
Harsh.
That was epic, but that tattoo looks awful. So I'm against bad ink. But yeah, I don't have any ink. And I'm old enough now.
Hold on. That was always going to be bad ink. He lost a bet.
Yeah,
I mean,
but at least make it look good. Like you can't even be proud of that thing.
And
someone needs to see it. Put a picture of the thing up because it's awful. It's
one of the worst Mike Evans right now.
Well, I mean, listen, you lose a bet. It's not like you wanted the tattoo in the first place. You know, I mean, it's going to inherently be terrible.
Yeah, well,
you want worse.
Most tattoos are. Like, there's a lot of bad ink out there. I was in Vegas at Circa. I saw a lot of people without their clothes on. Like, there's so much bad ink. And actually, as an investor, and Mike Pritchard taught me this. He's like, look ahead. So, like, I invest in tattoo removal companies because there's so many people that have made bad choices. And now I'm of the age where I'm like, I'm going to be like everyone else if I get a tattoo. Again, I'm not against tattoos. I'm a rocker. I'm a heavy metal guy. Everybody knows that. But like, I'm too old now. Now I would just be following everybody else and be like, look at me. I got a neck tattoo or a face tattoo or whatever. Like, whatever.
I just say this when you get inked. No regrets.
No regrets. Right here.
I just texted Mike Evans because I need for sure to see a picture of this tattoo. I can't believe it. I would never guess Mike would have that. Funny tattoo story. Actually, my fiance's now sister was seeing a guy. She went on like one date with him, but he had F off written all across his chest, like the full thing. And I was like, yeah, that's what you want to do as a single guy and take that home.
Yeah, there's nothing that says I want to be more unemployable than looking like you fell down a flight of stairs carrying a tackle box.
So what does he do for a living, Rachel?
I don't know. Like I said, she went on one date and she was like, yep, saw that one. And I decided it was a no-go. So good decision on her part. But Cecil, I know you and Andrew Mason are doing a really fun series this week. Is it for 2 weeks? How many episodes we got of this? But what if for the Broncos?
Yeah, during the slow time before the Broncos come back from training camp, we're going to do our what if series. We also have our position previews that'll be coming out. That starts next week. So we'll intersperse position previews and then our what if categories. And D-Mac, there is a special episode for you, brother, and it makes you look so good. because one of our what ifs, and I'll look at the schedule when it's come out, but what if the Broncos drafted Justin Fields? And when we break it down, when we go through that whole thing, because it's almost stream of consciousness type of shows. We did what if the Colts didn't trade John Elway, and it ended up with Randall Cunningham being the quarterback of the Broncos in the 80s and 90s. So we go through these scenarios and we say, okay, if this happened, what's the butterfly effect? If Justin Fields had been drafted by the Broncos, there would be a lot of great things with the Broncos right now. And it's more than just one player. And that's where I even say it on the show. I was like, D talks about Fields. Let's talk about everybody else, because that butterfly effect would be so massive. So we look at these situations. What if the Broncos drafted Josh Allen? What if the Cowboys had gotten Paxton Lynch? Like, we look at all these scenarios in different episodes and just say, what if? And we take a look back at history, and then we look and kind of just unpack everything of what could have been.
No spoilers, or at least a spoiler alert.
Yes.
But Barry Allen and the tomato paste, the tomato with the mom, no spoilers with Flash.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and I'll point that out, I don't think that's actually that big of a spoiler. Like, everybody knows there's two Flashes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So everybody already kind of knows that anyways. So that's not a spoiler. But the point of that movie, and this has been a premise talked about through ages and the concept of time travel and all that a million times, like what you do if you break that, one thing, what happens later on. And the most constant concept is everything changes. However, I call it AIS, assumed incompetence syndrome. And a lot of people say, well, if they got Josh Allen, if they got Justin Fields, then they wouldn't know how to develop them and everything would be terrible. Well, that's assuming incompetence the rest of the way. And it's assuming everything else would be the same. And I say no to that, which I'm assuming you are too. Yeah. It's like, no, if you drafted Justin Fields, you would be committing to Justin Fields. So everything would be built around that. And because you would have Justin Fields, you would have more draft picks and you would have more money to spend because he would be on a rookie contract. So you've got to say, well, what would you do if you had all those draft picks, you had all that money, and then you would get coaches who would focus everything around Justin Fields? This was why it was tragic to draft Drew Lock in the second round, because the only way he would have worked is if he worked in somebody else's system. It wasn't designed to him. Now, Drew could have done a lot of things differently to make things easier on him too. He doesn't come out blameless in this, but he wasn't a priority in the first place. Why? Because he wasn't taken in the first round. When these quarterbacks that come from, and not just the first round, high in the first round, not in the 20s, not the mishmash of Johnny Manziel and Paxton Lynch and Brandon Weeden, and I could go on and on and on. That Tim Tebow, all that sort of stuff. None of those guys in the 20s are really the plan. That's why Jordan Love with the Packers, we'll see. They're hanging in there with them, but I'm not holding my breath because of where he was taken. He just wasn't a priority. But you would have had to draft Fields at 9. He would have absolutely been a priority. In fact, you would have been foolish just to sit there and wait for him at 9. You should have moved up to get him. That being said, I love this concept. I've been screaming about this for literally years and years and years. And we're trying to, we're trying to make this Russell Wilson thing work. And it's not painful, but it's damn obvious to watch the practices to see what they're doing to make it work. They're working around Russell Wilson. They're trying to make him fit into a different system. And just to keep it reals, they're designing a system that the vast majority of quarterbacks, not just starters, the vast majority of quarterbacks, period, in the NFL could actually work with. It's not really that special for Russell Wilson.
What they're building is the 2021 Saints. They're building the Jameis Winston Saints. Not to give too much away from what we've seen at minicamp, but that's what this offense is going to look like, because I battle with fantasy GMs on Twitter, which is the worst thing ever. I always laugh when people say it's gone downhill since Elon bought it. I'm like, it was always a crap hole. Are you kidding me? It's social networking. But I argue with fantasy GMs because they're like, Sean Payton's always had a top 5 passing. They ain't going to have that this year. they're going to run the hell out of the ball. And these what ifs are great because we do that, DMAC. We look at the salary cap situation. We look at the free agents available. We deep dive on these topics for this multiverse for the Broncos. And it's really most fascinating to me that we look at the impact of John Elway. Imagine if John had the now bravado of getting that franchise quarterback. He'd still be doing stuff, right? He
No
wouldn't
doubt.
have walked away, and there wouldn't have been the Drew Lock. Drew Lock was I'm still going to get my guy, but I'm afraid to take him in the first. He told him at the Senior Bowl. I talked to John at the Senior Bowl that year. Like, they told Drew he's a top 10 pick, and he had a top 10 pick, and he moved back. He took
Rich, excuse us for going on here, but it gets even worse because in that particular draft, they talked Elway out of drafting Locke in the first round. And then they just sort of like conceded to draft him.
After they took Dalton Reisner.
Yeah, which was like, oh my God, how dumb can you be? You're either all in or you're out. And they were just trying to placate Elway. How pathetic is that, by the way, by taking Drew Lock after they took Reisner, who's no longer here. So, I mean, it just was, you want to talk about a philosophical screw up. Look at that draft. I mean, that was just, I mean, there's some bad drafts with John Elway. And that's not the worst one, of course. The worst one was obviously Chubb over Josh Allen. But that one was really bad too. I mean, we've had just some bad moments here, and we're paying the price. Yeah, and the price you're paying is depth. They're trying to solve it with money right now. I get it. They're trying to solve it with money, and it's looking good for what it's worth, and it's the only thing they can do. So I applaud them for not being cheap. But the depth on this team is brutal.
Cecil, did you guys do the what if John Elway wouldn't have been here? Would Peyton Manning still have come?
Yeah, we have done Peyton Manning makes another choice. I won't tell you where we have him going, but like the impact of that. We have, and one of my favorites, and these were all organic in terms of like we'd start and we'd just go and other topics would arise and we'd go, and the time varies from about 20 minutes. The Josh Allen one's almost 40 minutes because it's so depressing. It's our season, it's our finale for the What If series.
Just like
so right before training camp, it's like, here's a bunch of depressing things about why you didn't take Josh Allen.
Well, the Manning one is really fascinating. It's a great what if because it's the 2012 draft.
2012, yep.
And
then we had Russell Wilson coming to him because they like Russell Wilson. That's why Russell Wilson puffed up to me at the Senior Bowl when he got all mad and puffed his chest and stood up at me because I said, hey, you want to come to Denver and back up Tim Tebow? Because I knew the Broncos liked him. So, yeah, in the Manning one, there's my spoiler alert, DMAC. In the Manning one, we have him getting Russell Wilson.
Well, we've had that conversation actually a million times, so that actually doesn't surprise me. The what if scenario, though, is very interesting in that one because and I was banging the table for Russell Wilson, but I did not feel as strongly in 2012 about the first round stuff that I do now. Not even close. So I was banging the table for, I was dumb back then in 2012. I was banging the table for third round for Russell Wilson, which is where he went because my theory was they would take him. He would just beat out Tim Tebow and, whatever. And look you can design the same offense. They're the same type of guy, and they are. It's the same type of guy. It's that Russell Wilson's just way better than Tebow. I mean, not a little better, like way better, but it's the same style of offense. What made things complicated is the relationship Elway had with Brock Osweiler because of his son's relationship with Brock and that John just sort of got to know him. And it does, I do wonder, Cease, even if Manning didn't come here, based on the relationship that Manning with his son Jack had with Brock and the relationship they had, because they certainly would have looked at him. There's no doubt they would have looked at him. Would Elway have just gone with Brock anyway? Would he have been put off by a Tebow-like player? Because he couldn't stand Tebow as a quarterback. Are you sure? I'm asking your opinion here. Are you sure Elway wouldn't have just taken Brock anyway?
I think you would have taken Russell Wilson because Brian Sanders was still there. And you and I know X, and X wasn't about Osweiler. He was about Russell Wilson. And I've heard enough that if Manning wasn't there, it would have been Russell Wilson because Wilson could have done what Tebow had done, but it had been better with it. And Osweiler was so wildly different from Tebow. So if you had to keep Tebow, you either had to get someone that would absolutely 100% replace him. You think the lock stands are bad, Rachel? The Tebow stands, DMAC, I don't even know how we lived through that. Like,
I can't even imagine.
It's crazy about Tebow. I remember at the Senior Bowl, there's this lady, and Tim was terrible at the Senior Bowl. There's a lady holding a sign, and it said Tim Tebow's God's gift to the NFL or whatever. And she was just like hooping and hollering, and the guy was just terrible out there, but she was so happy to see him. And that's just the whole, kind of circus that came along with Timmy. But it needed to be someone to beat him, as Russell would have, just like he beat Matt Flynn, or it would have been a star that everyone would say, okay, yeah, of course you can get Peyton Manning. And that's why you have Tim Tebow. I think my favorite one, and it's really an examination of Elway and his impact on this community. My favorite one was looking at if they would have beat the Jaguars in 96. I think they would have gone a three-peat, but then we did a special part 2 to that episode because I finished that episode. Well, wait a second. They win Super Bowl 31, 32, 33. Okay, that's great. Awesome. Go Broncos. What if they lost 31? Would John Elway have even stayed? And the answer is no. Mike Shanahan would have looked elsewhere. And we have a special quarterback that Mike Shanahan would have got, by the way. So it's like just looking at all these multiverse scenarios and going like, wow. And then really it comes back to John. It comes back to John and his impact on this franchise, impact on the community, and just where John's decision-making went because he got decisions wrong. And I think that impacted his ego. And I think it definitely impacted his decisions, like not drafting Josh Allen, not doing what the team needed him to do.
Interesting. We'll see. So we are looking forward to it. What episode do we have today?
Oh boy, I'm going to look right now because today's episode is on June 21st. It is the Paxton one. What if the Cowboys get Paxton Lynch?
Okay, well, we will look forward to it. My friend, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. And of course, arguing with DMAC. And you always can get an argument with you and DMAC. And I love to be able
to all love.
All love. And it's so much fun because you guys you just dive into like a different zone. And I love it. So Cecil, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And of course, you can hang out with him and Andrew Mason on Orange and Blue today, every single weekday at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. But now, DMAC, since we're not here on Friday, it's Ask Us Anything. I know both DMAC and I will be headed out on vacation, so we won't be here. But this is one of my favorite times of the week is when everybody does the Ask Us Anything. And one of them is, isn't that the point of every offense? Make it easy for the quarterback to play good, ideally. And I love that question because, yeah, it is. But you also expect them to have a little bit of a higher IQ to be able to do some crazy plays. Do you agree with that one, DMAC?
Yes. I mean, every offense has to be based around a quarterback, or if you don't have a good quarterback, it has to be, I don't know. Then you just design something that the quarterback can more or less easily fit into. And that's what the Broncos have done this year with Sean Payton. They've simplified everything to a massive degree. Yeah. And it's going to be reliant on a huge offensive line, a very simple sort of offense, very physical offense. Yeah. Like anybody who's into running the ball and all that, you're going to love this. And by the way, if you do that successfully, you set up play action, which theoretically can make the quarterback look good because it opens things up. But it's definitely, we're going to, pound the ball and be very physical first every game. But at the end of the day, Rachel, you cannot win a Super Bowl unless your quarterback can figure out how to convert third downs and convert in the red zone, and has the ability to lead you from behind. That's it. That's the common denominator of great quarterbacks. Virtually any quarterback in the NFL can march his team between the 20s. Seriously, It's just not that hard. Third down, red zone, come from behind.
Yep.
That's it. And so you can't get away with it. But what you can do is you can keep yourself in games and that's what the Broncos weren't doing, despite the fact they lost by so many relatively close margins. Rachel, it was still you were at all those games. I mean, did it feel like they were about to win or did it feel like they were about to lose? Yep.
Real quick, a little bit of breaking news that's coming out. The Nuggets are trading the least favorable of its 2024 first-round picks in deal to move into the first round and early second in Thursday's NBA draft.
Okay, here we go. They got their eyes. Hey, they got their eyes on somebody. So I'm looking forward to seeing who it is.
Yeah, no kidding. Another Ask Us Anything question. DMAC, will you get a PS2 controller tattoo if he gets a pick 6 to beat the Bears?
No. See, you don't get it. I'm not against Patrick Surtain. I've advocated for Patrick Surtain to be more involved in the special teams and even on offense. You don't get it. I'm not anti Patrick Surtain. Okay. What I was for is the need of quarterback and where you were. And the best possibility was Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So it's not a Surtain versus Fields sort of deal. It's a philosophical problem. And Rachel, I hope everybody understands that everybody, I mean, literally everybody that made the decision about PS2 over Fields is now gone from the Broncos. Gone.
You are not.
Everybody is gone. The coaches, the scouts, the owner, gone. So, I mean, I'm not trying to give you an I told you so. And what time is it? I could be gone in the next 5 minutes. But the point is not PS2 versus him. And that's what drives me nuts when people say, well, PS2 is a better player than Justin Fields. It's like, holy guacamole. Yeah. Do we not understand, again, relative value? You could be the greatest cornerback in the world, but your relative value to a quarterback is tiny. Yep. Tiny. So yes, it's an important position. You know, I'm rolling my eyes, but it's like the 4th or 5th most important position. Quarterback is not just number 1, Rachel. It's number 1 by Mount Everest compared to, you know, the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it's ridiculous. So stop with the PS2 versus Justin Fields thing. That's not what it's about. It's the decision to take a corner over a quarterback when you needed a quarterback, and everybody who made that decision no longer has their job. So, I mean, what are we talking about here?
I still think if it happens, you should get a tattoo, but that's just my personal opinion. How would you rank this Nuggets team versus other championship teams of the past? Maybe we'll stick here in Colorado to make it easier. Are the Nuggets one of the best teams we have ever seen?
Yes, they are, because they have a generational player who's one of the greatest players ever, who performed in one of the greatest fashions ever. And then you add up the performance also of Jamal Murray throughout the playoffs. Those last 2 games weren't his best, but whatever, they were good enough. And you have a Nuggets team. That Nuggets team, you're gonna be hard pressed to find many teams that could beat that Nuggets team. I'm not gonna say they were the all-time best team. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant were on a team that lost 1 game in the NBA playoffs, and it was Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Okay, so I'm not saying that. But if all the years of the NBA Finals, I think this Nuggets team, well, it's easily a top 10 team. It may be even a top 5 team of all time. It's not number 1, though. That Kobe Shaq team that lost 1 game, and the 1 game they just fell asleep. Yeah. I mean, that is I don't think any, and that's Shaq at his absolute peak. Phil Jackson, who won, you know, 1 million championships. Kobe Bryant, who is an all-timer. I mean, that team was ridiculous.
Yep. I'm seeing a comment, Trade Alert. We just got picks from the Pelicans. I wonder if that's what the Woj tweet was from. Denversports.com will have that updated since we only have 1 more minute left on the show for today. I saw this question. Ask us anything. Any chance you just elope in Hawaii and save yourself thousands of dollars on a party that really means something to you and a few others? Troy, I'm going to assume that you're not a big wedding person from this comment. I will not be eloping in Hawaii. I will enjoy a nice long engagement. But I'm a big partier. Like I want to have a big party and hang out with a bunch of people. Even DMAC wants to come in. DMAC's not a big wedding person either. So I'm gonna save the money, or I'm gonna spend the money and throw a big party for all the people we love.
Listen, everybody out there, just so you'll understand the reality of the situation. Rachel is celebrating her engagement with a Hawaiian vacation. So Rachel's doing what most people dream of for their honeymoon to celebrate her engagement. You think she's going to elope? What are you, nuts? I mean, come on now. Stop it. I mean, if this is the engagement, what the hell is the honeymoon going to be? So, I mean, that's right. That's right. You go,
Z
girl.
Formation over there from D-Mac. No, but I am headed on vacation, and so is D-Mac. D-Mac's going to pop up a little bit over the next few weeks, but we will both be back on July 6th for our first episode of Coffee Break in after the 4th of July. That's
are
crazy.
we gonna try to meet at the airport tomorrow? Because we're
gonna try and meet.
All right, we'll see if that works out. We'll see if that
6 a.m. Look for a nice little tweet from both D-Mac and I. But that is going to do it for Coffee Break today. We loved hanging out with everybody through the championship run, through the parade. Thank you all for the well wishes for my engagement, both my fiance and I appreciate it. I already saw a text message from him this morning, so we appreciate it so much. And we'll be back after the 4th of July. You guys will see you on July 6th. Have a wonderful holiday, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.